So I am super excited. Every year for the past however many years, we've had a guest speaker. So this year, I'm not really sure where we got our guest speaker from. I just know I got a little bit of info in between shows, but we just found her. God sent her to us, and she is amazing. Her story could have left a lot of us feeling sorry for ourselves, but not her. She saw God's light in dark places, and my favorite thing about her is she's got jokes. She's super funny. She is an amputee, and we met at the IHOP. So thank you for laughing. She told me to say it. I know it was bad. And I said to her, Ashley, I can't say that joke. I said, what if there's amputees in the audience? And she goes, they'll laugh. And I'm like, all right then. So then I guess our song is Lean on Me. But I do adore her, and she is hilarious. Oh, you're running out here like nothing, right? Cut me off, Ash. Anyway, ladies, help me welcome Ashley Ash.
Thank you. No, I don't think so. Okay, it was great meeting Jean at IHOP. She looked at me and thought, what a sad little girl, and then I hopped right over, and we're the very best of friends now. I am very thankful to be here this evening. Thank you to the Sisters in Christ for having us here, and it's such a fun time to be here and to enjoy things. And also, with my name being Ashley Ash, it definitely helped with the theme Beauty for Ashes, I think. So being an amputee can come with some very particular set of circumstances. So you can laugh with me tonight. My story is very serious, but I also want us to have fun and to enjoy it as well. So I'm going to start off by telling you some of the very specific, particular circumstances that come with being an amputee. For example, people are always pulling my leg. Sharks are a very real concern for me because, let's face it, if you get bit, you have one left. I'm the only person I know that can break a leg and keep on going. When I wanted to participate in karate as a kid, they sent me to the Martial Arts Center instead. This is true. I'm always approached by Civil War reenactors looking to recruit for the surgical tent. It's true. My pedicures are half off, and I argue for that. And I can present an invoice to you to show you what it means to cost an arm and a leg. Speaking of legs, this particular one that I am wearing is still in process. It's still a test leg, so I'm told, after 52 appointments. But it is $53,000, so insurance is always a battle. And it is what my husband now considers my true bling. I am celebrating each and every day, and I really do wonder how much time I may have lost in my life simply by not celebrating and by living in the moment and seeing the beauty that is around me. See, joy is the stance of an overcomer. It's the stance of freedom. It is a warrior's victory. No matter where we are in our journey or our battle, the war is already won. Jesus has already won this battle, and no matter where we're succeeding or manifesting that in our journey, it doesn't change because we are chosen ones. So Jesus is the overcomer, so we can celebrate with joy and gladness. I want to share a little bit about the way my life has been and how it has been redeemed from what appeared to be ashes into what I believe God perceives as beauty. How my battle has changed from mourning into joy. I was a pretty normal kid growing up, and doing the dishes, all the stuff that kids help, their parents do. I love to walk on the beach. That's why my blog is named Crutch Prints in the Sand, because I don't have footprints any longer. It was pretty normal, and one day in preschool, I ended up falling on the playground, and it caused my knee to swell, and it's coming, that right there, right in front of that in that parking lot. I was 4 years old, and I fell, and 2 weeks later, my mom and dad figured, well, I guess we better take her to the hospital because she's been complaining about this for a little while. So they took me, and the doctor came out with the word that no parent should ever have to hear, saying, does cancer run in your family? And I can imagine my mom's response to that one. So immediately they asked, well, where's the best place to take her? Because this is 1989. cancer doesn't happen to kids in 1989. So they had asked that, and they were told Sloan Kettering, which is up in Manhattan, New York City. So that it started a very hard journey for my family. My mom would stay with me in the hospital, which was unusual. A lot of parents didn't do that. And she would stay with me in the hospital. My 1-year-old sister was staying with my grandmother, and then my dad, and my dad too. And then on Friday nights, my dad would leave his job, which he had to maintain, drive the 4.5 hours to New York City to stay with me for the weekend, to give my mom the reprieve to come back and spend a little bit of time with the 1-year-old Amanda. So it was a hard year. It was almost a year of this. So, if you can just grasp and really understand how hard that was. My parents are here tonight in the front row, and I think that they definitely would deserve a round of applause for what they've done there. And my grandmother, too, that watched the 1-year-old. I remember how difficult the bills were because we had $1 million cap on our insurance at the time, and I maxed that out within a couple of months. So we had to make ends meet. And we had a big basket of bills, and every once in a while my mom would just, get a few tears in her eyes and take that basket out to the burn barrel and just pretend like that was it. I said pretend because we all know the bills keep coming, don't they? But God was with me even in the hospital. It looked like it was a really hard time, but there really wasn't a week that went by that there weren't cards. There weren't, kids would save their toys that they didn't, use and send them up for me to play with. I was 4, I was in a hospital. How much fun can a kid have in a hospital bed? You think about it. So it really was, meanwhile there were fundraisers happening at home for me to help us cover the medical cost for this. At one point I remember I was laying there in extreme pain, and I was so overwhelmed in pain. And I remember looking up and seeing a man walk into the room, dressed in white, took my hand, and I'm looking over at my mom, who was watching TV in the other half of the room, thinking, does she see this, or am I alone? And he left the room. And I knew in my heart, even as 4 years old, that was Jesus. I knew it. There really was no debating that with me. To this day, when atheists tried to argue with me, it's like, well, it's an experience. I don't know what to tell you. I experienced something. And so I knew that was Jesus, but I remember for so many years being a little angry that he left me. He came in and then he left. And it was just within the past year or two that I felt the Lord led me into John 14-16, which is what a lot of people call the love letters from Jesus. And I started to realize that he didn't leave me, but he left so that the Comforter could come, just like he promised us, and that he could be with me and comfort me in an eternal way, in a very real way. So developmentally, during this time, I was 4, and a child is like a sponge during this time in their life. They're learning, how they're going to respond to the world. What is life about? That's what kids are learning. And there's special ways of having fun, things like that, that the kids are supposed to learn that. I was learning that life was a battle. That was pretty much what my life was at that point. Life was a battle. I had to fight, and it was me versus the world, it seemed to feel. I was in pain. A lot of the medical science at the time was experimental, so chemotherapy treatment, they would just kind of treat you hard, and when you were almost at the point of dying, they would just kind of pull back, knowing that you couldn't take anymore, and wait. And at that point, you either bounced back or you didn't. A lot of kids didn't. And I can't imagine being an adult at that time, because I remember as a kid hearing different kids cry at night for their parents that weren't able to really face the reality of the possibility of your child dying in the hospital and them being alone. So it was just kind of tough. So my life appeared to be in ashes, and everyone around me was very sad. I was told I probably wouldn't walk with my level of amputation because I was supposed to be amputated above my knee, which I believe that God had a hand in. My surgeon's name was Dr. Healy, and Dr. Healy, and that is really his name, Dr. Healy had a feeling that he should amputate up higher. And, well, for a while I was kind of like, if you know anything about amputees, the higher that you're amputated, the harder that your life is. Somebody at the level that I'm at isn't ever going to be the person you see on TV running marathon. It's just a reality that it takes about 6 times the energy for me to walk than somebody else. So he amputated much higher, and while for a long time I doubted that. I realized that I was one of the only kids that didn't have to go back in for a second surgery. I was one of the only ones that never had to, that the cancer was taken in one clean swipe. So I believe that Dr. Healy had the healer's hand behind his. Some people thought I may not even be suitable to marry or to be a wife. So at a very young age, I'm saying all this to just kind of show you that at a very young age, it seemed like I had a lot set against me, and it reinforced that attitude of, hey, life is a battle. You're going to have to fight through this one, and you're going to have to do it alone. Nobody could fight that battle for me. So turmoil kind of rocked my life. I was different. I knew I was different. I'd gone through something kids shouldn't have to deal with. My independence and resolved attitude was often misinterpreted to be stubbornness. Sometimes it was. I'm telling you this because my mom is here. And if you ask her, she'll tell you I can be very stubborn. But it really did get me through a lot of the things that I had to deal with. So even now, even today, every day it's still going to be the mode of disability. I can't carry my own drinks without wearing my leg, which is very uncomfortable to wear all the time. You know, laundry. Little things that you think of that you carry from one place to another. I can't go to a buffet without someone having to carry my plate for me. You know, it doesn't go away. There's days that I've eaten on the kitchen counter or the kitchen floor because I simply don't feel like putting my whole leg on just to carry my plate to the table. There's just like all these little things that no one even realizes that my 0 in the morning is not your 0. And I knew, but somehow in and through this, I always just knew that if there was a problem, that I could solve it. And I have an example of this attitude of amputees that can solve problems. We had amputee, I'm falling asleep in my leg. Sorry, crack me up. We had these camps for disability, for children of amputees, for amputee children. Okay, so we go and we would learn how to do Paralympics, and we would learn how to, you know, to swim and to ski and to do all the wonderful things that the Paralympics do. And they did end up trying to recruit me for it, and everybody thinks that's an amazing feat, but let's face it, how many disabled people are there? I have a pretty good chance here, you know? But anyway, so we were at this camp, and when you became of age, the lady that was in charge would put you in charge of a couple of younger kids that were also amputees. So I would be chaperone, and it would be my job to, you know, get them up in the morning, tell them to put their legs on. No, I'm not cleaning your leg out for you. Do it yourself. You know, let's get to breakfast on time. And that was my job for the week. So every day, the very first problem that I had was I would get in the shower, and the girls would leave my hotel room and go down the hall, knocking on all these doors and running away. Or hop skipping, I don't know. And the hotel management called me. They're easily identifiable on camera. And said, you got to get control of these kids. And I was like, okay, you know, okay. We sat down, we had a talk. I thought we were all on the same page. That's where some of that resolve and amputees can come in, I think. The next day, the same thing happened again, and management called, you know, we warned you once, okay? The third day, I knew I had it figured out. Girls, I said, take off your legs. So I gathered all the legs up, took them in the shower with me, locked the door, went to get my shower. And you know, those girls still left that room and went knocking on doors, but they didn't get as far, I will promise you. So by the time I was about 19 and I was in college, they found I needed, due to an ill-fitting prosthesis, I needed another surgery on my stump. So I wasn't feeling stumped, but they told me that, you know, that I had a problem, I needed to get it fixed. So they went ahead and they operated on me, and it caused me to, the relapse or the lapse in college education caused me to lose my scholarship, and it really wasn't able to come back and pick all that back up again. So right then again, you know, right from behind, it was hitting me, you know, you're not going to get ahead. Life is a battle. Everything is set against you, and you're never going to get where you need to be. So I moved. I got, you know, a full-time job with benefits, moved out to Nottingham, and got my own place. But my problems still seemed to kind of plague me because I didn't realize they were coming from my attitude. I didn't really realize that. And I also didn't realize that I had chronic post-traumatic stress disorder that had kind of followed me through all of this. So a lot of the cycles that I seemed to be running around, I couldn't break because I really didn't have the tools to break them because I was struggling against something that was very real. I was lonely in my new place. I was just very lonely. I started hanging out with my coworkers, and they were drinking and doing drugs and stuff, and whatever. I was lonely. I just wanted to fit in. For the first time in my life, I wanted to fit in somewhere. So I found a culture that accepted my motto and my attitude very well. At one point, I remember even in this place, God was speaking to me. Because at one point, I was standing there in the shower, bawling my eyes out. God, I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely. I need somebody. And there was a coworker that had wanted to start seriously dating me at the time. And I thought, I've got to do this. But God spoke to me in the shower that day, and he said, as clear as day, he said to my heart, if you date this guy that you know is wrong for you, it will set you back in your walk 2 years. But if you can just hold on, Ashley, you will meet the man you will marry in 1 year. But I was too lonely. I couldn't do it. And I went down the wrong path, and I deliberately chose the wrong path. And by the way, it did set me back 2 years, because within 1 year, my now husband moved into the same apartment complex as a neighbor, and within 2 years, we started dating. So it really did put me back exactly 2 years. So when I was in this subculture during this 2 years of just choosing the wrong path with, hanging out with drug dealers and this and that, I really just turned to a lot of numbing effects to try to help with the post-trauma stuff. And I didn't really realize, well, now when I read over my journal from that time and I look at the ink, I don't recognize that person at all. I can't imagine being a person that would be so reckless and so unsafe and just so not caring about yourself in that way and so disrespectful towards yourself. But I was self-medicating, and I really don't have funny stories from that time in my life because they would really glorify darkness, unfortunately. So I thought my life was in ashes before. Now I was immersed in oppression and heaviness, and I was really mourning being different and mourning not having a leg at this point. It was catching up to me. See, the worldview rose-colored glass that I had in front of me was cracking because it was built on me, myself, and I. I had tried to love others. I had tried to be godly. I had tried to love and serve the one that left me in the hospital that day. But my life held no place for God in it because it was built around me. The moment that I realized I needed something bigger than myself was I was pulled over for speeding alongside of the road, and I realized I had alcohol in my system. I knew I had drugs in my system as well, and was hoping that they wouldn't even notice. And I saw on a comedy show one time that the guy was pulled over. I was on my way home from my own birthday party, and I blew into my car, and the policeman said, "Did you come from a party?" And I said, "No, a funeral." Don't ever say something like that. It doesn't have the funny effect it does on stage, ever. It was not funny. He didn't think so. I had to step out of the car or hop out, whatever. I got out, and, I realized that, here I am standing here. I had just gotten rid of drugs. They could have put me in jail for almost 12 years. And I'm standing there thinking, this cop, how dare he pull me over? I even told him, I'm like, why are you handcuffing me? Take my crutches. Not going anywhere. Something else you probably shouldn't say. Very disrespectful. And so then it just hit me alongside of the road. I looked up and I thought, oh my, maybe I'm the bad guy. Maybe all this time I've been battling myself. I've been sitting at a table with the world out here and me over here, and I've been pushing back, and maybe we're really on the same side. And I started to realize that. Everything was a journey. So 2 months later, I went for help. I saw a life coach. I did say 2 months. It took that long for me to come to the end of myself. I take things one step at a time. I do put my best foot forward, though. And I jog with it. But anyway, my life counselor, she told me, don't change anything. You don't need to change. It's not about you. You do what you need to do. I am going to point you to Jesus and give you real life tools that you may not have received as a child that you should have. And that will change you. And you'll start, instead of reaching for alcohol and reaching for drugs and reaching for other things, you will start to reach for Jesus. And he will be what you're not. And it was my first real introduction to the fact that I can't do it alone. In and through this time, it was a push and pull, like so many things are. I met my husband. I was in a bar. I met my husband, and I was left by my friends. Wait, what's funny? Oh, the picture, yes. I'm like, why are you guys laughing? That was my Halloween costume one year. Brilliant. So I met my husband in a bar because I was like back and forth, trying to get my life cleaned up, don't change. And I was left there and I needed a ride home, and I saw this, skinny little guy across, looked like he was on a date, thought maybe I could crash his party, asked for a ride home, He gladly obliged. He took me to took all his friends home. 3 hours later, I end up on my doorstep. I'm just like, you know what, here's $10. There's no strings attached. He still kind of jokes about that, but whatever. I didn't talk to him for a year after that because I really knew I needed to mend some relationships. I needed to work on myself. I needed to get my life in order and to a little bit of a better point. So let's step back from a minute and talk about mending relationships. Because if you can prevent, there's certain things you don't say to amputees. And if you just don't say them, then we won't have to mend any relationships. So here's a good opportunity. First of all, a lot of people walk up to me and say, I don't see another leg. Really? If you find it, let me know. I'd like to lean on it, every once in a while. Some people tend to say, why aren't you wearing your leg? I don't know. Are you wearing underwear? What color? Why did you pick red? It's such a shame. You're so pretty. Last time I talked to somebody, I didn't stand there and look at their feet and say, wow, you are pretty. If I were you, I would kill myself. That really makes me feel like a go-getter. These are all things that people have said to me. The last thing is, everybody knows somebody that has some sort of amputation. And they may not know them, but they have a brother who has a nephew that knows somebody that is boyfriend with a cousin of a guy that knows that lost part of his pinky. And he ran a marathon. I don't relate. I just want to tell you all. I'm sorry, I just don't relate. So seriously, I was getting my life back on track, and I kept trying to chase away the little man that would periodically knock on my door, which I wouldn't answer. One day I got a call from my grandmother, and she says, do you know the little man that lives across the hall? Because he is walking in front of your apartment with his chest puffed out like a rooster, and he's either stalking you or... do you have your curtains closed? So I decided I better go out and talk to him a little bit. So I did, and we started to see each other a little bit. So the second day, he comes to my house, and he hears a beeping noise in my house, in my apartment. And I should tell you that my leg, I have to plug it in at night, into the wall, like a cell phone. I have to charge it. And if I don't charge it, I don't hear the beeping. Because I have a hearing impairment, and so when it beeps, it means it's dying. It died last night at rehearsal. Anyway, it's beeping. I'm going to go find this beeping. Okay, whatever. He goes straight from my closet, opens the closet door. I'm mortified. Second date. Who wants, their date to see their leg in the closet on their second date? I wanted him to see me without my leg because I didn't wear it. I did not want him to see me. Anyway, to this day, we still joke about how some people have skeletons in the closet, but I have legs. So I did try to push him away. I really did. If that didn't do it, I kind of figured out nothing would at that point. But that man has really taught me more about God's love for me and true relationship and a compassionate heart than a million years single. So he has truly been my true helpmate in life. So formulating the wrong mindsets, I have learned a few things. I've learned that the wrong mindset can set people back and imprison them in ways that they may not even be aware of. That no matter how badly someone wants to change, that until they realize that they're living in condemnation and shame and can receive God's grace to move out of that, those cycles may not change, even if they want them to. I have learned that it doesn't mean that people are bad or that they don't believe in Jesus. I believe I was saved from a very young age. I really do. But it does mean that they're lacking the tools in life's toolbox to handle and to live victoriously the way Jesus has asked them to. When I say I'm missing something all those years, I meant it. And then in our prison, whatever that may be, it will always lead us to a place of realizing that we need something bigger than ourselves, and that something will always be Jesus. So in the past 6 years of life, of living victoriously and living in God's redemption, which he has just flooded us with over and over and over, we have talked a lot about things completely, still remaining to be tough, even when you become a Christian, even when you completely surrender to God. And they still have. The chemotherapy, we found out, had some effects on my body, and we've struggled against infertility since then. We had an apartment fire, and we were kind of displaced for a little while. My legs break. I've had 52 appointments in the past 6 months, and still I'm not in something that I can really comfortably stand up here and walk back and forth, or jump or skip or whatever, in front of you like I would like to. But we're no longer, the difference is though, I'm no longer in a battle to fight the world. Now I'm in a battle to receive God's grace and to give it to others. So, Graham Cook says that our testimony is not what God has done for us, but what he is doing in our life now. That our testimony should be new each and every morning. Our God is a living God, and while we are called to look back and to rejoice over what he has done, we do want to choose to live in a present-future relationship with him. God does not want us to keep holding on to mindsets and looking back. He wants us to keep looking forward. And Danelle touched on that today with Enoch and walking with God, and just get up and rise and go. Let's keep moving forward. So today I'm so excited to see what God will do in me in the next chapter of my life, or the next leg of my journey, I shall say. In his love, there's joy, there's beauty, and there's victory. My life doesn't always show victory in my choices or my word, but that is the beauty of being the chosen one. He chose us and he loves us. There's not anything that we can do to change that, because he loves us. He chose you, he loves you. He gives us a garment of praise as we trade in the rest. This is my story of beauty for ashes. And I can promise you this: I will no longer waste time living in shame or living in ways that I feel like I have to fight each day or survive each day. And neither should you. Instead, I bless you to receive the beauty that he gave you for ashes. I bless you to praise him in times of heaviness. I bless you to know true joy that's not dependent on circumstances, but that flows from within. And I bless you with grace of facing each day with a heart of reception to receive God's favor and love that is bestowed upon you in abundance. None of my story is possible without friends and family and people praying for me, people that I a lot of times avoided because of my own shame and wanting to just hide from my own choices. People that almost gave up on me. People that I didn't even know were caring or praying. But every single prayer was heard in heaven. And every single prayer brought my name before God, and he continued pestering me until the day when I finally came to the end of myself. So for all this, I will celebrate, and I will enjoy each day. And while some people say I have one foot in the grave, I know I have one foot in the future.